on there twice.
Okay, welcome everyone. My name's Tanya Castaneda. I'm a member of the board of the San Diego Press Club. I want to welcome you all to an evening with Police Chief Scott Wahl. We're very honored to have him here to speak with our San Diego Sun editor and founder and San Diego Press Club board member and events chair, Ron Donoho. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron.
Thank you very much, Tanya. And thank you to everybody who's logged on again to the San Diego Press Club evening with Police Chief Scott Wahl. Chief, thank you for being here.
Hey, good evening to everybody, and thank you for having me.
Definitely. Yes, my name is Ron Donoho, editor of the San Diego Sun and a member of the Press Club board. And I would like to recognize first the Press Club's president, Steve Fiorina. Steve was a TV news guy for more than 40 years and was out on police lines plenty of nights.
Indeed, I was. Thank you, Ron. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the nice Press Club Professional Development Seminar. As you know, journalism is a challenging profession, and we're facing a challenge right now. How do we do our jobs at crime scenes and emergency situations without media credentials, as we've done for decades? The landscape is changing. We must adapt. San Diego Police Department has announced it will no longer issue press passes nor parking placards. So, where do we go from here? Chief Scott Wahl has agreed to discuss this with us tonight. The interview will be conducted by Ron, who's the writer and editor of the San Diego Sun. He's assisted by Tanya Castaneda, who'll be screening calls and then forwarding questions for the chief later in the evening. Thank you. Please begin.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yes, that is exactly what we're here for, to talk about the issuing of media press passes and parking placards. Giving those out was something that the SDPD did for decades, but stopped this year. There are a lot of opinions on this in our industry, and I'm going to ask the chief questions about what was behind the decision. Before we start, let's observe the format. We're using a gallery view format because, well, we like to look at each other. Everyone should please mute themselves for the entire program. If there are any interruptions, Tanya, who you've already seen, will mute you. In the worst case scenario, she will boot you out of the meeting. So I plan to leave time before the end of the hour to allow for questions. Due to our limited time, we're going to ask you to please write out your questions in the chat. Include your name and your media affiliation. Tanya will read through as many legitimate questions as we can at the end. Last note, I think, is that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, let's get into it. Again, Chief, thank you for your time tonight. So everyone knows, you already know this, you became chief in June 2024. You are a fourth generation San Diegan and a graduate of San Diego State. You became a cop in 1998, worked your way up through various divisions. You also spent 3 years as spokesperson for the whole department. I want to ask you, Chief, do you miss being the media spokesperson and getting to hang out with all the journalists?
I will say that assignment, the 3-year assignment, I learned more about the role I'm in today than perhaps any other role. I learned a lot from the media folks and several of my who I would classify as mentors and um, people that I very much respect. Steve Fiorina being one of them. I think I saw Phil Farrar running around, Cliff Alberts on as well. These are media folks that I grew up admiring and definitely learning from in this role. So I'm grateful for it, but I will say those were 3 tough years.
Well, welcome back into the media fire. So let's get right into it. Chief, the reason for issuing press passes is simple. Reporters want to get access to sometimes dangerous spots to do their jobs and report the news. On the other hand, the police or first responders need to do their jobs too, unimpeded by people who aren't trained to put out a fire, for example. What's the compromise? Supposedly, a press pass was for journalists who needed to be there. The the police department had been issuing press passes in San Diego for decades. I checked around. In Los Angeles, media still applies to the police department or the sheriff's department. In Chicago, it's through the police department. New York City, you apply through a department in the mayor's office. There are cities going away from this in the police department, but the big question, why did the SDPD stop overseeing press passes?
Well, thank you for the question, Ron, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and talk with everybody tonight. This was not an easy decision. This was not one that was made without a lot of deliberation and input from a lot of different entities and perspectives. Understanding that yes, I was the spokesperson for 3 years, and yes, I have tremendous respect for not only the role the media plays, but for the relationships that I've developed over the years. I want you to know that this decision was not made in any way to prevent or make media members have a more difficult time in doing their job. I want to pride myself as somebody that is more forward-leaning and progressive when it comes to working with the media. I want to enable you to do your job, and I want you to be able to do your jobs well. Unfortunately, there are a couple things that have happened during my time where I feel like the track record says differently. One was the encryption of our radios. We are the last agency to transfer over to the encryption, but I know we took a ton of criticism for that move. Where the other agencies, I don't feel got any criticism. It was change in state law that really kind of pushed our hands in protecting personal information. So that was one notch that didn't score me any points with the media, and I get it. I understand. It makes it more difficult for you to listen to the scanners and do your jobs. But the second thing was the press credentials, and the press credentials back when they started, and nobody could really find when they really originally started. There was a lot of conversation that goes back to the Bill Collender era when he was police chief. At the end of the day, the challenge that we have is who are we in the police department? Who am I as the police chief to determine who is and who is not a member of the media? And the answer to that question is we are not the entity that can decide that in any way. There's no filter to that at all. We've listened to a variety of different ideas where we could potentially go out to, requiring background checks or requiring, other. You just have to submit other documents. But at the end of the day, as long as they follow that, there's nothing that we can do that says yes or no, you're a member of the media. And if that is valid, and if that is the case, then what is the purpose for that media credential? If anybody can apply and get it, on top of that, what name goes on that credential is also a challenge for us. But if that's the case, then what is the purpose for that media credential? And if it comes down to, and I've heard this a lot, getting access to crime scenes, well, technically, when there's a crime that's committed, we're allowed to preserve the area that contains the evidence of that crime, and we put up, in a perfect world, we put up crime scene tape around that area. Members of the media and members of the public have access all the way up to that crime scene tape. There's no special privilege. There is no special allowance that is given to members of the media. If you're a good incident commander, you're incorporating the angles that would help members of the media to do their job. Maybe you carve out kind of an area that is as a preferred area for members of the media, and you can kind of corral that area and allow members of the media to be in that area so they have the best angle. But at the end of the day, technically, when you come into a crime scene, it's everybody is outside of it except for the investigators that are investigating that crime. And members of the media and members of the public have access up to that crime scene tape, and that's it. So that wasn't really a valid argument back in the old days. Maybe it might have been a little bit differently, but those days are gone. And in today's world, we've got all kinds of folks that are social media influencers, bloggers, journalism students in college that are suddenly getting media credentials, and whether they're members of the media, I don't know. We're not in a position to make that determination. So really this conversation started to turn towards could the news stations themselves issue their own credential and that identifies each person as a member of the media. One of the concerns that was brought, well, I don't want to say one of the concerns, a concern that was brought up by a lot of folks was during disaster scenes. Whether it's a wildfire or a flood, or it doesn't matter the circumstance or the situation, but there's state law that helps preserve access to those types of scenes for members of the media, as 409.5, as everybody on this Zoom, I'm sure, is well aware of. And we have, over the years, even with the media credential, have had challenges with officers not allowing people into areas that are a disaster scene. I've had personal experience on a couple of them. Two that I can think of are plane crash scenes. So even with the credential, we have a challenge with officers being maybe overzealous or overprotective on allowing access to members of the media, and we have to work through that. And typically they'll reach back to the command post, and there's some sort of dialogue back and forth as to who it is that's trying to get into the area. Where the concern comes in, and where there could be a delay that I would admit, if we evacuate an area, let's say like the wildfires that burned through Scripps Ranch, and we evacuate all of Scripps Ranch, it's the police department's job to maintain a perimeter around that community and make sure that people aren't going in to loot all the abandoned and vacant homes. So in that environment, the challenges that we saw, we would have the satellite trucks coming down from LA. None of them have a San Diego police credential, right? They're all coming in to gain access. You have the San Diego media folks that are with credentials trying to gain access. And then you have folks that are members of the media or influencers or whoever trying to gain access. And in that environment, it's important for us to have some type of a in and out screening location for members of the media to try to gain access to that area. It shouldn't just be open for everybody just to drive through if they say they're a member of the media. There should be a level of screening. But that doesn't change whether they have the credential or not. Oftentimes, when you're members of the media from a news station, you've got something that can show whether it's a business card, whether it's a credential from that station.
TV news station, you mean?
Well, it could be newspaper as well. Doesn't have to be. It could be the radio. Any of the above. Mm-hmm. Understanding that our goal is to make sure that you're a member of the media, or you're there to cover the story as a part of the media, and you're not there to loot the area, right? That would be what the concern would be for our perspective. Outside of that, it's open for the media to be inside. The law is very clear in that regard.
Yeah. So
the challenges that we have in that moment that have happened throughout my career and have happened throughout time, even with the credentials. I do anticipate there will be some challenges in the future. That is why our training is of critical importance. It is an ongoing thing. It's not an end state. It's something that has to continue. because we don't have disasters, thankfully, very often here. And when we do, there's often different personnel that are in patrol handling or responding to those incidents. There's a lot of dynamics and things that we're trying to uh, put a perimeter around and contain. And officers are juggling a lot of things, and the last thing they want to do is be a part of contributing to something that would either tarnish or destroy or change evidence, or our ability to stabilize the incident in any way. And so that is where we're coming from, and that would be what would be our challenge moving through a moment like that. So I know I've said a lot. Are there questions? Are there do we
Oh
is
yeah, yeah, Chief. That was very all-encompassing, and thank you for that. Um, I do have several questions, and some of it may touch back on again some of the things that you just said. And FYI for everybody, we're going to leave some time at the end for questions from the chat from people from news sources. So. I wanted to read to you. I'm sure you've seen, but let me just put this into the record here. There were two professional groups that reacted to the ending of the media press pass program, and that was the Society of Professional Journalists and the Press Club.
Mhm.
So this was the SPJ statement. Quote. We know that news has been distressing. This news has been distressing to many reporters and photographers who relied on the pass to ensure they're able to access disaster areas and other locations to deliver critical news to the citizens of San Diego. But we want to be extremely clear. Nothing about this decision changes journalists' legal right to access to news events. You touched
Yep.
on that. The law is clear. Officials are required to grant news media access to disaster zones and protests so that they can deliver the news. That was never a right conferred by SDPD's press pass. It's a fundamental part of California law. Um, they encourage all reporters and photographers to carry business cards and identification that clearly identifies them as a journalist. SDPD has pledged to honor such identification cards, and we can talk about that some more. Their statement ends, we expect all other law enforcement and fire agencies in San Diego County to do the same, since historically they've deferred to the SDPD press pass. Chief, I want to give both of these statements to you and then let you respond to both at the same time. The press club's response was a little bit shorter. The press club, San Diego Press Club, is examining the San Diego Police Department's recently implemented practice of discontinuing media identification cards, press pass passes. In all cases, the SDPC, the press club, believes the ability of the press to do its job quickly and efficiently in the field should not be impeded. Discontinuing press passes will hamper legitimate working members of the media. Can you address both those statements?
I agree with them. I agree with them both fully. Again, I want to start or go back to where I started. I want to support members of the media in doing their job. I believe in the mission, and I want to enable that. I just feel those press passes have outlived their I don't want to say their purpose, but their intended purpose. I think back in the as my kids, my one of my four kids would say back in the 19s, uh, when things were a little bit differently, we were able to screen and do things that are not acceptable in today's world when it comes to the First Amendment and technology and social media the way that it is today. And so it has been more problematic than it's been beneficial. I am still committed to making sure that the members of the media have access, complete access, to be able to do their jobs, not only in disaster scenes, but in everyday crime scenes. And I'm open to ideas and ways that we can help members of the media to do their job in an expeditious manner, and acknowledge that there will be training that has to continue through time as we hire new people, and as we have officers that make mistakes as far as where they should be allowing members of the media to go. That'll be a constant thing, but we're focused and committed to doing that.
Question about when you did issue press passes. I know, for example, that Los Angeles still does a background check, gets proof of employment, and checks for crime story publication by individuals. Um, is that what SDPD did? And well, let me leave it at that. Is that what you did?
So in the past, there was a background check, a quasi background check that was conducted. Um, One, that background check is, I think, controversial. I think it's open to, um, I don't want to say debate, but it's open to, certainly open to criticism and potentially litigation when it comes to what are you going to do with that information. So if somebody has a misdemeanor conviction on their record, are they no longer allowed to be a member of the media? Like, what are we doing with that? Really, what it came down to was if you had a warrant, we would arrest you for the warrant. Okay, so if you don't have a warrant, you're suddenly now a member of the media. It makes no sense what they're doing. So with the way LA sheriffs do it, the way I understand it, is they
Well, Chief,
require you to come back with.
Chief, if you didn't
Oh,
have a warrant, but you were, employed by a press outlet, and
mhm.
there was evidence that you were writing stories, about crime scenes, is that valid?
It sure it could be valid if you're showing that you're writing stories. But what happens if you've never written a story and you haven't been hired by a news source yet? Like, there's so many ways that people can come back and sue us for trying to filter and determine who is a member of the media and who is not. And at the end of the day, we have no boundary. No, there's no barrier. I mean, I could leave my job today and suddenly be an influencer, and now I'm a member of the media, right? The world is changing around us
Sure.
really quickly, and as much as I am committed to helping members of the media do their job, and I believe in the mission of and obviously the First Amendment for sure. I think there's ways that we can accomplish what you as bona fide members of the media are looking for, and take away the responsibility, not responsibility, but um, the risk of us trying to determine who is and who is a member of the media without making it really just a mockery where everybody gets it for just filling out a few lines on an online application.
So, as we already mentioned, and just if you can confirm, the police department will honor members of the press that have business cards. I know it's just been implemented shortly, but how's that working so far?
Uh, well, I mean, there are going to be examples, I'm sure, where there have been some sort of delay or something hasn't gone ideally. One of the things I often ask for is what give me more of an example. So when it comes to a crime scene, for example, as I started before or stated before, there is there is no special privilege given to members of the media. There's no special privilege given to anybody outside of the investigators for that crime that should be inside of the crime scene tape. Um, and so there really shouldn't be any problem in that environment for allowing people to come right up to the edge of where the crime scene tape is. There shouldn't be any that should be a constant day in and day out routine without having to show any credential. Where there is more opportunity for error, human error on the police officer side is when it comes to the disaster scene scenario, the 409.5. And one reason for that, or one contributing factor, is we aren't dealing with disaster scenes day in and day out. And so, one of the ones I remember was when the F-18, or I think it was F-14, that's how long ago it was, crashed in University City. I remember being on scene for that within the first 30 minutes. And I remember members of the media trying to get access to that. And if you remember, it's a military plane crash that came down on a few homes and ended up killing at least one family, but it killed a couple people that were in the homes. In that environment, once we determined, and there was air traffic control information that let it be known that I think they ran out of gas or there was an engine malfunction. They were coming back on one engine, and the second one malfunctioned before they went down. So we knew that it wasn't a crime scene. Really, this turned out to be a scene for the military to kind of manage, but we were just trying to provide that perimeter control to keep people out of harm's way. There was a lot of toxic fumes, but members of the media were allowed access. And I remember there was one reporter that wasn't allowed access, and we had to have an officer kind of stand down that was trying to prevent that member of the media to get in there. Those types of things are going to happen even with credentials, and that is a perfect case example of how that's going to be an ongoing um, uh, need for us to do, and we're committed to doing it. We've put out a training video, and we do routine training with our personnel. Every academy class gets a media training class, and like I said, we're committed to it.
Quick question before getting completely off that track. Parking placards and existing media press passes. Um, I had heard that they're not just going to be cut off, they'll be, I guess the word, honored until they expire. Is that true? And will they be expired even, or will they be honored even after they expire?
So let me explain first the thought process. I've referenced a couple times back in the old days, and I'm referring to like the 1970s and 80s when things were handled much differently than they are today. There is nothing in the vehicle code that gives me the permission to give a special privilege to anybody that makes them exempt from the vehicle code that I'm aware of. I've never been able to find a vehicle code section that says the chief of police can grant you parking privileges. It's just been something that's been always, for the most part, appreciated and respected by our parking enforcement personnel, and a privilege that has been appreciated, obviously, by members of the media. The intent of putting those parking placards out there, I fully support. I want to help you get to a crime scene or a disaster scene to do your job. We have to figure out a better way to be able to do that. That gives me um, uh, um, I don't want to say that allows for us to accomplish uh, uh, that policy or that direction, but that isn't going to be a false expectation in the vehicle code. Nothing is preventing a police officer or a sheriff's deputy or a parking enforcement officer from writing a citation, even with that placard in the window. I just want people to understand that there's nothing that stops that from happening. Part of what our training includes is affording during a disaster scene or during a crime scene, when media folks and officers are responding to an incident, allowing some flexibility in that moment. And if there's a member of the media that is blocking ingress or egress, that's top priority. Try to get them to move out of the way if you can. We do not, and I've never in my career ever seen where we would deploy officers or parking enforcement officers to start writing parking tickets. It doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. If it's happened to you out there, then I get it. But at the end of the day, that's not the intent of what we're looking for. My policy direction to my staff is to enable members of the media that are responding to cover an incident, work with them to try to find a place for them to park and help them out and give them the benefit of the doubt. Not looking to write citations and make your job more difficult.
Okay, so I am hearing you that these are different times, and that there are different types of people that are covering incidents. Influencers, podcasters, a whole host of people that are perhaps internet based. You mentioned that, correct me or if I'm wrong, but you're indicating that the incident commander on site is going to make evaluations individually of people. Could
No,
correct?
let me clarify that a little bit. That would be a recipe for failure,
Of
right? Leaving
course,
it up to that one person. So
sure.
no, I want all of our personnel to understand the intent. The intent is to help you do your job. Every scene and every situation is going to be entirely different. Some neighborhoods we respond to have very tight streets. There's very little room for ingress and egress. There might be circumstances or scenarios where a person from the media is blocking the road, and that's going to be a problem.
Hmm.
We need that vehicle moved. Depending on the situation, I want officers to make that determination at that moment, at their level. I don't want that to be something that's brought up to the incident commander. They've got other things they're worried about. I want them to take in the understanding that our policy, my policy and direction is to try to help enable members of the media to do their job and to do it well. And if it's a matter of just saying, hey, could you pull your car over here off to this side of the road so we can have vehicles coming in and out? If they can do it, great. There's no need to write any tickets there. I don't have a pro enforcement policy in any way. I want my officers to try to work with members of the media so that one, they can do their job and we can do ours. And if we just communicate through that, I think we can accomplish the end goal.
So again, clarify if this is incorrect, but if any member of the media or any person comes up to a crime scene and their car is not blocking the way, if they want to be in the area perhaps that's designated for press, if they say that they are with a TV program or new or radio or newspaper. I mean, if they say they're a blogger, if they say they're an influencer, are they all going to be treated the same then?
So that's tough for me to answer, Ron, because every circumstance is different. The legal requirement is that members of the media have to park legally, right? That is the baseline. This isn't about trying to enable an environment where we can start pulling into people's driveways and front lawns and blocking streets and just parking because we're just trying to get to the scene. Try to find a legal place to park. But if officers are saying, hey, pull over here into this side of the street or into this cul-de-sac or into this part of the schoolyard or
Hmm.
whatever, that we want members of the media parking there, yeah, great, perfect. I'd love that. I would love to hear for that allowance or officers that are on scene are thinking about responding members of the media when they're dealing with their incident and trying to work it out. That is the ideal that I'm looking for. If I don't want to say that they're allowed to come in and park illegally. If somebody parks in a handicap stall right in front of a scene and there's other places to park, well, you just shouldn't park in a handicap stall to begin with. But that could be a situation where you're going to get a ticket, and I can't. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm not trying to enable an environment where we can just be lawless in that world. But I don't think that's how this is going to evolve. I think members of the media, in my 28 years of doing this job, for the most part, have not been a problem. And I've been on some major incidents where we've had to work through some issues, but it hasn't been that big of a problem for us.
Okay. I have a personal anecdote. It's
Sure.
a lot more tame than being on a crime scene. I recently went to City Hall to cover a council meeting. There was a long line of people outside the first floor door. Went to the front of the line and told the officer at the metal detector, I was press. And he let me in ahead of the line so I could go upstairs to the 12th floor and do my story. He didn't ask me for a business card. I don't think he recognized me personally. Um, does that point to any flaw in the system now? I mean, I
Um,
was I was glad to get the access to do my story, but I
sure.
guess saying anybody could have done that.
So, so I want to make sure I understand the situation correctly. So you went into City Hall and you just
There
said
was
you're a
a
member of the media, and they just said, "Come on in with all your stuff," and they
There
didn't
was a
screen
yeah,
you.
there was a long line of people. It was a big issue, probably parking. And I went ahead of the line, and yeah, I did get screened. I'm a online reporter. I don't have a camera or anything like that.
Mhm.
But they let me ahead, and I got to go up to City Hall to the council chambers. Um, just because I said I was.
Okay. So what are you
So,
asking?
I mean, does that point out a flaw in not having press credentials? I don't know if that
No,
officer
I think
was
that
informed that, if you have a card, you can go in. Um,
I think it proves my point, Ron. So yes, there should have been some level of screening to make sure that you're not going up there with with the intent to harm somebody. But um, at the end of the day, there's nothing that media credential that comes through the San Diego Police Department has done to say that you're not going to be a person that is going up there with a gun that's going to hurt somebody. That credential doesn't um, unless we're doing a more thorough background check and we're denying people that are not passing through that background check. It's a worthless document at that point.
Wanted to ask about one of the other possible reasons behind stopping issuing press passes. Did it have anything to do with current legal action from media members against the city? I guess not against the police department, but against the city.
Mhm.
Um, I believe there was one case where a videographer was arrested while he was trying to get footage. The question is, did legal action play into the decision to stop issuing the passes?
No, there were a couple cases that we had litigation on. Uh, One was a person that had applied under a pen name, and we had a discrepancy over whether the pen name could be used or the person's real name. And so there was some litigation on that didn't go well for the city. Um, these issues, the previous chief was trying to address. He ultimately made the decision to leave it to me to decide. Again, I wanted to make sure that we listened to members of the media. We took in a lot of different viewpoints and considered different perspectives before I made the ultimate decision to stop doing the program.
Um, who, how was the decision made? Was it a decision that was made by the police department? Was the mayor's office involved? Were there others that were involved in making this decision?
So I got input from a lot of different entities. I'm a part of the San Diego County Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. So every police chief and the sheriff meet monthly. I discussed with them my perspective and my thoughts, and uh, I met with members of the media, the news directors here, specifically here in town. I have relationships with numerous frontline media members. I've talked with PIOs from different entities, different businesses, to get their perspective and thoughts, to make sure I understand the situation in totality before I made the decision. But I made the decision. I'm not trying to put it off on anybody else, or um, I'm the one that made that decision.
Sure. I mean, I was curious if it was, I'm not sure how much it cost to run the media pass
I don't even
program,
know.
but I
Yeah, I don't
mean,
know.
was this a de facto budget cut?
No. I have no idea what it costs. I don't imagine it is anything significant. Ultimately, our ability to say who is and who is not a member of the media, we can't answer that question. Um, then I don't know why we're in the business of issuing media credentials. And um, that is the core of it. Um, any litigation out there really is isn't necessarily the deciding factor, but it's just case in point of this is just problematic, and we're trying to make something that made more sense back in the old days than it does today. Um, and any of the issues that are out there, and I know there are issues out there, I respect the viewpoints, the different viewpoints. Um, but I think those are training issues, and I think we can work through those and still accomplish the end goal of supporting the media and doing their job.
Shortly before this meeting of ours right now, I got a note from a company that was curious about a request, a public records request that they'd made about all material relating to this decision
Hmm.
to stop issuing press passes. Um, I don't know the full details, but what was relayed to me was that they had requested videos, uh, but had not received any videos yet. And I've got a public request number that was given to me. Are you familiar with this?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sure my staff that's on would be able to answer that, but I don't know which one you're talking about.
Okay, I have one more question, and I think we've got a ton of questions in the chat. So
Mhm.
there's a good bit of time left. So I'm going to let the questions go there. The last question from the person that was asking about the public um, um, records request. Their question was, if someone is at a crime scene in the middle of the night and they're denied access to a news scene, what's their recourse? Is there someone they can call? What do they do?
Yeah, I have two of my communications folks on here. I have my PIO, Cesar Jimenez, Lieutenant Cesar Jimenez, which was in the role I was in. I also have a communications manager, Ashley Nichols, who is on online here. Uh, they are both tasked with making sure that our department personnel understand the rules and the laws and the policies and expectations that we have to support members of the media.
Okay, reaching out to Tanya. Tanya, if you're there, it does seem like we have a lot of questions.
I am
Yeah.
here. Yes, we have 20 plus questions in the chat. I've been
Okay.
monitoring them and great questions. The first question was by freelance photojournalist Ed Baer, and he had a number of questions, but it looks like they were mostly answered during the conversation. He asked, should the government be saying who is or who isn't media? I believe you addressed that already.
Ed, how you doing? It's been a while. Yeah, I don't think we should be in the business of saying who is a member of the media and who is not. So yeah, this one I think Ed and I would agree on.
Okay. Greg Torkelson with Cydio TV asks about he initially asked about the radio encryption, and then your PIO answered him in the chat. So I'm going to move on to another question of his. This is a question about not directly about media passes, but he said he's concerned about there's a delay of when incidents get listed on the SDPD online dispatch, sometimes 4 to 6 hours after they take place, which makes it difficult for a journalist to get to the scene. He said that he would feel more like it was realistic if it were, 10 to 15-minute delay. Your PIO did provide a response and said that is something being addressed in the department. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so I think when they first started, we're kind of got to work with our police officers association. They had an issue with it being. I would love for it to be live. I'll just be straight up with you. I would prefer it to be live, but the counter to that is that there could be an officer safety issue there, and so I think we've agreed upon. I thought it was already to a point where it was 15 minutes. Ashley, is it 15 minutes? Is it less? Is it not there? Do we know, Ashley?
I don't think it's 15 minutes. I thought it was 30.
Is it 30
Um,
minutes?
I'll double check my emails real
The
quick.
the POA agreed to. I thought it was 15, but I'll defer to Ashley. We'll have to report back to you where it's at. Part of it is setting up the CAD system to be able to publish it on our website. And I'll go as low as the unions will let me do it. Again, the officer safety component of it, I think, if somebody's out there trying to ambush you, they don't need to go through looking at that to figure it out. They can just call 911 and hide. So I don't buy that argument as much. I understand it. I prefer it to be live. Again, I'm trying to support what you guys are doing. We still do allow folks to call into our watch commander's office 24/7 and can get any updates on any breaking stories. I realize that is not uh, that is not within getting with the times, but that is still something we're doing on the media
Um,
line.
All
Chief,
right.
you were correct. It was 15 minutes. I just verified. So we're at
Yeah.
15 now, but yeah, we would like it to be more real time.
And something else that we're doing as well, because some of that is out of our hands, is we're putting, if there's a roadblock or something that's going on that's major, that's going to affect people's day, we're putting that on social media, on X, avoid this area, which, I mean, basically it's a message for everybody saying, hey, there's something going on here, right? And so a lot of people have been taking that as a message that something's going on.
Okay, I'm gonna move quickly through these to get as many in as possible. But before I do, I just have to show you that I found my media pass, but it expired in 2012, so um, no good anymore. We have Marisol Sandoval with City Times Media asks, how does San Diego PD make sure media rules are not just about protecting the department's image?
Can you give me a little bit more? But tell me more.
Let's see.
This
Marisol?
this isn't about protecting our image. If this rule is not about protecting our image. I just don't feel that we are the proper source to say who is and who isn't a member of the media. I think maybe somebody else, maybe somebody in the media, maybe the press club could be the ones that say who is and who isn't. It just shouldn't be us.
All right.
Yeah, let me jump in, Tanya.
Go ahead, Ron.
It it's true that other police departments are looking to go away with this, and some have. Some of the
Many have.
a lot of the larger cities have not yet. Um, I mean, it's traditionally all across the country. It's been police departments, and you
Mhm.
know, we discussed there is a different different class of people covering events these days. Um, you know, if not the police who are, you know, overseeing these scenes, you know, I'm not sure the press club is at a point where it's ready to do this. Um, you know, do you know of a solution? If the police department's just not going to do it, do you have a
Well, we're
suggestion?
so Ron, we get stuck in this like repeated like cycle of, if the police department's going to do it, is there a background check that's being done, and how thorough of a background check are we doing for somebody to exercise their First Amendment privilege? Right? I mean, at the end of the day, this is like back in the 70s and 80s when nobody was really asking those questions. We were doing background checks and we've vetted people, the members of the media, and but at the end of the day, you know, we should we even be looking at your criminal background? We're not allowing you to come into a crime scene, right? Where there has to be some level of backgrounding done where we can test your you know, whether you're going to, you know, steal something or lie about something. This is really about drawing an edge to a perimeter, and then everybody can stand there, right? So
It's a conundrum at this
it is a
point.
conundrum, yeah.
What else do you have, Tanya?
I've got a good one here. Bill Paul with SD Slackers, and I'm kind of going through chronologically. What is the policy for when yellow tape is used to define a crime scene versus dangerous, hazardous, or just to restrict the flow of pedestrians and vehicles? What is the policy around yellow tape usage?
Great. Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes when we respond to a scene, we don't know what that footprint's going to be. And I know that can be challenging for members of the media, because what we teach is start big and then move in. It's easier to do that than to start small and realize that areas that you've allowed everybody to walk in are actually part of the crime scene, and you have to expand outside of that. Is that Paul? Is that my friend Paul Kruger? Paul, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
Good.
you're not muted. There you go.
He just entered, so he
Yeah,
hadn't
I'm
heard the
here and
ground
I'm
rules
good.
about being muted. So
Well, it's good to see you, Paul.
Yeah, you
That
too.
would be another one of my mentors from way back in the day, right there. So as I was saying, when we put up crime scene tape, the way that we train our police officers is to start big, and then you can always condense down. um, so that you preserve evidence. That's the goal. That's the intent. We have a space, an area to work within. We can protect evidence and document it properly. That's how the crime scene tape works. And a lot of times, the tape isn't put up because things are rapidly evolving or they are fluid. Um, and we're asking for cooperation, and typically officers will try to point to an area that is safe and okay, maybe a sidewalk, maybe a driveway, maybe a parking lot, and ask for members of the media to cooperate. And I would say 99% of the time that's the case.
Okay, I'm going to rapid fire get through a few more. Gail
Sure.
Falkenthal, also a San Diego Press Club board member and combat sports writer with New York Fights and Times of San Diego, asks, Chief, does a decision about identifying a legitimate news media covering a crime scene now fall on the incident commander on scene or individual officers? And isn't that kind of a burden on them? And I think you addressed this a little bit in your conversation, but wanted to put that
Yeah.
out.
Well, so the rules for being an instant commander, everything falls underneath you. You're responsible for everything until you delegate it out. So technically, perimeter control is your responsibility until you delegate perimeter control units. Handling the media is your responsibility until you bring in a PIO. All logistical support elements are your responsibility until you bring in somebody to handle logistics for you. So the incident command system operates in a methodology that you're responsible for everything until you delegate it out. And so depending on the complexity and the size of the scene, most of the time you want to delegate that stuff out. You don't have the time to do it all by yourself.
Okay. I have another one from Gino Guidi with SD Slackers. You talk about vetting people and credentials being controversial. Isn't asking for a business card shifting the responsibility to the officers on scene? How do you define legitimate media by a business card, as anyone can make a business card? And it would be
So
difficult to vet the legitimacy.
yeah, so that's a great question. So um, when we're asking for some type of identification, first of all, if it's a crime scene, I'm going to go back to it again. That really shouldn't be the case. Members of the media, members of the public are allowed access to everything outside of a crime scene. So we shouldn't be asking in that scenario. I realize we do. I'm not trying to say I own the fact that we don't always get that part right. Again, officers are trying to respond to a scene from different angles and in different ingress routes, and they maybe don't understand that the totality of the scene, and so there could be confusion that they're trying to manage and work through while members of the media are also responding. So understand that there is some complexity there, but at the end of the day, having some sort of credential from where they work could potentially help them get into a disaster type scene, a 409.5 type scene, where we are filtering people into an area that is evacuated or not inhabited by just everyday citizens. So anything that helps you explain that you're a journalist would help you in that moment.
Thank you. I have a comment slash question from our San Diego Press Club board member, Kathy Scott, who writes for Psychology Today and has also covered the crime beat for 23 years in California and Nevada. She said, typically a police or sheriff's department spokesperson approaches the media, who are typically behind yellow tape, to answer questions and provide details. Without that, at first blush, it feels as if it's a tactic to cut off some access and control the media and the story. I think when she says it feels as if it's a tactic to cut off some access and control the media and the story, I think that might mean the lack of credentials. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, Kathy. That's how I read it. Or the lack of credentialing.
I'm not really sure quite how to answer it. Or maybe I don't fully understand it.
I think it's a little bit more of a comment, it looks like, than a question. So,
okay, noted.
Alexander Nguyen of KPBS asks, has the San Diego Police Department reached out to other private security firms about the decision to stop issuing media credentials? I've personally been asked by private security for a press credential while filming on a public sidewalk?
Yeah, I don't really know how to quite answer that one. I don't know what jurisdiction security has in a public sidewalk in any situation unless it's a private event. In which case, it's a private event. So, whether they want to open it to members of the media or not, that's up to them. But without knowing more information, that's really kind of hard for me to comment on. A security guard shouldn't have any ability to tell a member of the media that they can be there or not.
Yeah, Tanya, I think if we could allow that questioner to maybe give some details. I heard that he was filming on a public street and being asked to have a credential.
Yeah,
Um,
Yes, he
no
said
need for one.
on a sidewalk, right?
Yeah, there's no need for one.
Yeah.
Again, unless it's a private, if you had like a private, let's say it was, let's say you have a movie set and they've rented the whole street and it's blocked off. They rented that street for the event or the movie that they're filming. It's a private. They own that space. They can say who can be there and who can't be there. Maybe in that environment, a security guard could tell you you can't be there, but without knowing more, a security guard shouldn't have any jurisdiction over a sidewalk, telling you you can or can't be there.
Okay.
It's a strip mall, and he was just, I guess, power hungry or just concerned.
In a strip mall, so if it was out in front of the strip mall, yeah, he's got zero jurisdiction. You could thank him for his job and tell him you're going to continue doing your job. But there's zero jurisdiction, and hopefully they don't try to stop you because they'd be in trouble.
Great. I appreciate the concise answers, Chief, because we're getting through a lot, and I'm glad a lot of local news outlets are represented in regional. Dale Porter with Newsreel Media. Based on Chief Wall's explanation, a person out on parole with a history of gun charges, drug charges, and resisting arrest will be given access to incident scenes if he has a business card. But press members who
Oh,
have
Dale.
passed the criminal background checks may be denied access if they don't have a business card. And that's a better
No.
way of protecting evidence at the scene. Do I understand that correctly?
No, Dale, no, you missed it here. So if it's a crime scene, we put up crime scene tape. There's nothing we can do to stop anybody from walking up to that crime scene tape, whether they're a member of media or whether they're a member of they're a parolee or whatever. It doesn't matter. They can walk up to the crime scene tape. When it comes to a 409.5 disaster type scene, we have the responsibility of providing security for areas that we've evacuated to make sure that homes don't get looted and things don't disappear when those areas have been evacuated. So in that moment, we would filter who's coming in and out of there, but the filter would be trying to pay attention to who's coming in and out of there and whether they're bona fide members of the media. If they're not, then a little bit more digging has to be done. Who are you reporting for? What are some previous things that you've done? What is your name and information and document who you are? Maybe your license plate information while you're in there so that if down the road you're actually looting in the area, we've got a little bit of information about who was in the area during that time. So that's the environment where we would be doing more filtering. Outside of that, we really don't have a jurisdiction to say who is or who is not allowed in that area.
Thank you, Chief. Just a time check, Ron. I know we have till 8. Let me know when my last question can be.
how many more questions do you have, Tanya?
Many, many more. We're not going to be able to get through all of them. So
I can't see the questions, but I saw a number pop up a couple of times that someone was questioning. Is that a legitimate question from a media member?
a number?
A 148 something?
It probably refers to the penal code, resisting or delaying or obstructing a police officer.
I was seeing a question that was going to be coming up very shortly about not that, it was PC 409.5D.
Let's do that and one more question.
Okay. Bill Paul with SD Slackers, he did have a question before, but this is another one from him. Have officers in the field been trained on PC 409.5D, and what are determining factors that an officer uses to determine if someone is allowed to use that exemption or not?
Uh, Let me defer to Ashley and Caesar and see if they've got any updates on what's been put out on the D section.
So
Yeah,
we do.
so on our
Oh,
side
go
we
ahead,
have
Caesar.
we did put out a video training for everybody to watch, explaining kind of some of those things that they need to look for. The chief mentioned some of them, having a press credential by, for example, if it's NBC, providing credentials that have to do that say NBC on them, a card, a vehicle that has NBC on it, for example, things like that. They can clearly point to that say that they're a accredited member of the media.
Does that address the question, Tanya?
I think so.
Okay. One more question.
All right. So I had skipped over Paul Levico to get to that one. So Paul Levico said, and this is a hypothetical because this is not happening now, but he said, would you honor a press pass issued by the Press Club or the Society of Professional Journalists?
What's the scenario?
No details given on a specific scenario, but I assume going to a crime scene or an
In
incident.
in my 28 years, I cannot recall a single time that I've asked for anybody's press credential. So if it's at a crime scene, I doubt police officers are asking the question. Again, they should have access right up to the crime scene tape. If it's a 409.5, um, again, absolutely. Our goal is to try to enable members of the media to do their job in that environment. Really, it's, you got a camera on your shoulder, you got a microphone in your hand, you've got your news shirt on. We're really just trying to make sure that you're a member of the media there. If you're on a BMX bike with a backpack and a hoodie and you got screwdrivers hanging out of your pocket and your gloves on your hand, you look like you're going to go and loot the place. Well, we're probably going to ask you who you are. I mean, I'm just trying to give you an example of the difference of screening. Is there vulnerabilities there? Certainly. But we're going to do our best to try to make sure that we're helping support media and not allowing people to come into an evacuated area to rob and steal.
Great. And I know, Ron, you told me that was my last one. I just wanted to say we had one really good one from a rural
Sure.
area. If you don't, if we could
Sure.
get your indulgence for 1 second, Chief.
Yeah, that's fine.
And this will be the last one, I promise. William
You're fine.
Everett
You're
of
fine.
Julian Boyce asks, I thought, an extremely pertinent question. What about access to wildfire areas through roadblocks?
Yeah, again, that we had a similar situation. Was not rural; it was more urban. It was the same scenario I gave earlier with that F-18 or F-14 plane crash that went down in University City. We had outer traffic control positions, just trying to keep all the looky-loos from coming into that scene. Extremely challenging for us, right? In trying to get through those traffic posts, explaining that you're a member of the media and you're there to cover that story. They shouldn't prevent you from allowing you to come in. That's not to say that you're not going to have officers or deputies that could potentially say it's a closed off area. Sorry. I do feel like we're getting better as an industry at allowing members of the media in, because I think the newer generation of cops that are coming online have grown up much more savvy with social media and the just media in general. So I feel like that's going to get better. Time will tell on it, but that could be another scenario where I could see there being some challenges from time to time that we're just going to have to work through. I think if you have the PIO's numbers for the agencies here in town and the ability to call if you're stuck in that type of moment, definitely our watch commander, which is 24/7, to explain you're having a challenge to get in there. We do want to hear about it. And I trust me, we're going to take corrective action to make sure that it is addressed and ideally doesn't happen again.
I think we're gonna have to cut it off there. I wish we had more time. I stopped asking my questions so we could get to the chat, and yeah, there was a lot in there. We're gonna have to call an end to it though. Chief, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you taking a little bit more than an hour with us. Um, Media is changing. It sounds like the new process of not having press passes is sort of an evolving situation. Um, maybe if we can, we'll check back with you again in the near future.
Sure.
I don't know if anyone on here is writing a story based on this or based on the topic, but I would
Hey,
imagine.
Ron, how about this? How about I'm willing to come back in 6 months or a year, and I'll sit down with you and we'll discuss how well things are going.
Tanya, can we book that? Okay, we have that on
Yep,
tape. Yes, we would love that.
absolutely.
I
Thank
think
you. We'll take you up on that.
that's a great idea.
Thanks.
Good
Um,
stuff.
Thank you to everyone who attended. And my understanding is that this recording will be up on the Press Club website on Wednesday. So that'll be there for you then. Any questions? I'm sure that Caesar and Ashley are available. I'm speaking for them, but
Yep.
thank you again, Chief. Very,
Thank
very
you
much.
all.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.